With the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was carrying out a birth, and was crying out in birth pains, and agony of giving birth. And another sign appeared in the heavens, behold, the great dragon, and 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems or crowns. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But her child was caught up to God, and to his throne. And a woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, in which she is to be nurtured for 1,260 days. Now, from last week, we worked out that this is a reference to how many years? 3.5. 3.5 years, remember. So, we have this image of a woman who's going to give birth to a man child. Now, for a long time, the Christian tradition has always said that this child is who? Jesus. And I completely agree with that. And as this woman is about to give birth, this red dragon is sort of like sitting there ready for the birth of the child. Because when the child is born, we are told, this dragon is going to devour the child. But at the last moment, somehow the child is caught up to heaven and the woman escapes. Now, before we go deeper into what this is all about, I want you to think Revelation. Okay? And I hope that so far I've got you to think Revelation in a different kind of way. Okay? In other words, instead of thinking Revelation only about future, okay, I want you to think Revelation, think it like the Bible wants you to think it, and like it's the text that they want you to think about, and it's to the back, right? Looking back into the text to realize what is John writing about, because we've discovered so far that there are 2 things that John pulls out: culture. It was the Roman culture they're around in, mixed with the Hebrew culture, with the Jewish culture, and the text. Okay? So then let's try and answer the question, who is the woman? Now there are 4 different opinions to who this woman is. The first one is the woman could be Mary. There are good reasons why we can interpret this way, that if the child is Jesus, it makes perfect sense that his mom is Mary. But in other parts, it's hard to see how Mary fits in this. Like, why is the crown with 12 stars, which is always a symbol of the 12 tribes of Israel, or God's people. That represents the whole people of God. So when you have 12, it means everybody. Okay? So there is this thing with the crown, it doesn't quite fit with Mary. But then there is this giving birth to a child, which is Jesus. And it fits very well. But what about her going away? Well, some have said this is the trip to Egypt that Mary took. But still, if you actually look at the fit, it's a tight fit. It fits, but it's a tight fit. The second option is that the woman could be Israel, the nation of Israel. Israel is called throughout the Old Testament a bride. God has a relationship with his bride, Israel, this woman. Israel, as she goes through difficulties, goes to the desert So this woman could be Israel. That would make sense. Also with the crown of 12, because the 12 stars, the 12 tribes of Israel. We can also say that Israel gave birth to the Messiah. The Messiah, Jesus, came out of the people of Israel. But then how does it all fit with Revelation? There is a question mark there, so maybe not. The third one, another option, is that this woman could be the church. I mean, the church would also be a good option because the 12 stars can still apply because it represents all of God's people. There are how many disciples? 12 disciples. They escaped to the wilderness. Okay? Part makes total sense as they escaped because of the persecution. Because that is what the early church did on some level. And we will talk about it just now. But it will be a bit of a hard thing to say that the church gave birth to the Messiah. It was more that the Messiah gave birth to the church, not the other way around. But before we go into the fourth option, let me do a little bit of a PS. Okay? And sort of adding it here rather than at the end, which I think will apply for us today. When we've been looking at the audience of Revelation, in other words, the early church, we've been looking at a different persecution of Rome against these people. Again, let's look at 4 options of these persecution, okay? And then we'll come back to who the woman is. In other words, how do you respond to when Rome comes to take your life? In these 4 options, 2 of them I want you to think of them as acceptable options, and 2 of them as unacceptable. You with me? You're not lost, okay? It's all going to tie in together, promise. Through this whole series so far, we've been looking at the first option with regards to persecution, which is Rome coming, knocking on your door and saying, we need you to come and bow down to Caesar and say that Caesar is Lord. We need you to come and offer incense and get the mark of the beast. And so the first option, we as Christians can say, no, I will not do that, and I will not choose the mythology, and I will not choose to bow down to Caesar. I choose the mythology of the same name, which will then land you up in death, because you're against what the Romans said you should do. So that is one option which we will read it and say, we'll honor that. We'll honor the martyrs who have died in the hands of that persecution. So that is acceptable. An unacceptable option will be the second option, which is the violent retribution option. That is fighting back. Grabbing a sword for the people of God, and in the New Testament, this is not an option. Okay? Because if we say that our general is a lamb, then a lamb doesn't fight with swords. It fights with the power of the mouth and the word of God. Because fighting back is not the way our general does things. So that is an unacceptable option. Another unacceptable option was to compromise. That was like the Nicolaitans, if you remember, we spoke about it. He said, sure, we will bow down, we will get the mark of the beast, but our fingers are sort of crossed behind our backs, because God knows my heart, knows that even though I'm buying down, because if I don't, then my family's not going to eat. If I don't get the mark of the beast, then I'm not able to buy and sell things in the marketplace. So I will do that. The Lord knows my heart. So I will compromise. And for John, in Revelation, and to many of us, that is unacceptable. That is something, I guess, that many of us will have to wrestle with. Do we compromise our belief and the commandments that Jesus gave us, and we say, well, the Lord knows my heart. It's okay. Do that, but He really knows I love you. It's something we're wrestling with. The fourth response is an acceptable one, is to run, to flee. Now, when we think of that option, many of us will be compelled by the one to stand and face with the sword. That is honorable. Stand your ground and fight. That's that one hymn, stand up for Jesus. Okay, that's honorable. But this option calls us to run. And that can be thought of as a coward kind of way. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation? But the real question we need to ask is, what did our Lord taught you to do sometimes? Like when Jesus said that when they come after you on one town, flee to another. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 23, Jesus says that. Flee to another. Do yourself a favor and study for yourself some of the people in the early church and what they endured to preserve a faith that we sometimes take for granted because they chose to run and hide and continue to worship God. And maybe you will just find it more honorable than thinking that they were cowards. That is the other option. Now let's get back to the option of who the woman is, having spoken about it. It could be Mary, it could be Israel, it could be the church, and it could also be Eve. Eve. I agree with the way you just went like this, Eve, because many of us would go, really? Eve? As in Adam and Eve? That Eve? What? How does that fit in? But again, if you're thinking serpent, okay, I'm going to look at it just in a moment. If you're thinking dragon and a woman who has offspring, you will immediately think of the book of Genesis, right? Because that's where the story is. Because when God was talking to the serpent in Genesis, God had a curse over the serpent. And what was that curse that He said? He said that she is going to have an offspring, and the serpent is going to strike at the heel, but the heel is going to do what? Crush his head. So in a very real sense, it could be Mary. Absolutely. It fits tightly, but it fits. It could be Israel. It fits. It could be the church. But without doubt, if you're a listener of the book of Revelation in the early church, remember these guys knew their scripture well. I can't stop emphasizing that by the age of 13, you were able to memorize the 5 books of the Bible. The first 5 books of the Bible. Memorize it. Okay? So that when they hear this story, you are hearing Genesis in the background with regards to this. So now let's carry on reading Revelation. Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated. And there was no longer any place for him in heaven. And a great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. Can you hear Genesis language here? He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown them day and night before our God, and they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. For they love not their lives even unto death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. So we have this woman with a child, and they go into a different direction. And so the dragon goes up and makes war in heaven. But he's what? What happens to the dragon? He gets thrown down from heaven. Now if you're still listening to this, and you know your Bible, as it did in those days, and you hear a reference about somebody making war in heaven, and they get thrown down, then you immediately will think of two passages. And we could ask the question, now, who is the dragon? But the passages tells us that this is Satan. And Satan has the 7-headed dragon, 10 horns, and 7 crowns. Is a very clearly going to be in the next chapter that we look at next week. So you'll have to come back here next week. A bit of a spoiler alert. It's very clearly this dragon, we'll see next week, is going to be Rome. So Satan is going to be expressed and taking on the form of Rome in the world. Satan has often been viewed in that way. In the Old Testament, other imperial nations that were oppressing the people of God, okay, were thought about as Satan. Like, for example, Babylon. So the two passages that come to mind when you read this war in heaven and Satan and his angels and so on, but we don't have time to look at both of them. You can look for yourself at Isaiah 14, verses 1 and following, if you want to do that for yourself. Look at that. The other one is Ezekiel 28. It's Ezekiel again. And here's the thing. There are these two passages where we get this backstory to Satan. The problem is that both passages tell you exactly who they are talking about. And none of them are talking about Satan directly. In the Isaiah passage, it's talking about King of Babylon. So is it Satan? No. It's the King of Babylon, unless it's Satan manifesting himself in the kingdom of Babylon. In the Ezekiel passage, if we're going to look at right now, it's going to be the king of Tyre. So Satan is manifesting himself through the imperial power of that day. You with me? Ezekiel 28. Let's have a look at that. The word of the Lord came to me, son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre. Is there a footnote in your Bible that says also Satan? No, it shouldn't. This is what the sovereign Lord says. In the pride of your heart, you say, I am a God. Sit on the throne of God, in the heart of the seas, but you are a mere mortal. Will that be about Satan?
No.
Was he a mortal, Satan?
No.
No. And not a God. Though you think you are wise as a God, are you wiser than Daniel? There's no secret hidden from you. By your wisdom and understanding, you have gained wealth for yourself, and amassed gold and silver in your treasury. By your great skills in trading, you have increased your wealth. And because of your wealth, your heart is grown proud. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Because you think you are wise as a God, I'm going to bring foreigners against you, the most ruthless of nations. They will draw their sword against you with beauty and wisdom bring you down to the pit, and you will die a violent death in the heart of the seas. You will then say, I'm a god, in the presence of those who killed you. You will be but a mortal, not a god, in the hands of those who slay you. You will die the death of an uncircumcised at the hands of foreign. Verse 12. Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says, you are the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Yeah. Now, as much as I said this is about the king of Tyre, can you hear something else in the background to it? And if you know anything about Satan and how it happened and stuff like that, can you hear the story playing out there in the background? Now, with regard to the garden of God, in Eden, the garden of God, you will say, you see, this is about Satan. Because where else have we heard about the garden and so on? And I will say, no. We were just told it's about the king of Tyre twice. You see, every ancient Eastern culture in their creation mythology had a story of the garden. Okay? Our story of the Garden of Adam and Eve is not a new thing. Okay? Every civilization in that time had a story of their creation that happened in a garden somehow. There were different characters, but it was in a garden as well. And it carries on and says, every precious stone adore you, and it goes a list of all these stones, topaz, onyx, jasper, lapis lazuli, turquoise, and beryl. Your setting and mounting were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherubim. Okay? So I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I drove you in a disgrace from the Mount of Gold, and I expelled you, or I threw you down, guardian cherubim from among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before the kings. By your many sins and this honest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuary. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you, and I reduced you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who were watching. All the nations who knew you are appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end, and will be no more. So when the readers of Revelation, who has Ezekiel memorized, okay, so they would have known that off by heart, what I just read to you, hear about the dragon raging war at the mountain of God up in heaven, and then he gets thrown down, they automatically think about Ezekiel and Isaiah. These passages that talk about their empires, the dead, the far, the way of God, and the kingdom of Shalom, the kingdom of peace and wholeness operate. Does that make sense? You sort of like, I can see where you're going with this. Or which one? Okay. So if you're reading this in the first century, you're going to say, this is good. I know what this is all about. Because I know Isaiah, I know it's memorized Isaiah, I've got this, I've got Ezekiel, I know this is Ezekiel 28, I know the story there with the splendor and the beauty and all that kind of stuff. I know how this story is going to finish. Good work, John. You did an amazing work in writing this revelation. And again, it makes a case to knowing your text better. Because that's what John is using to make his case. Instead of focusing and going and focusing on the future and how it's going to happen and when it is going to happen and who's going to make it happen. Okay? John is saying, you've been here before. You've heard this before. There's going to be a great war, but I'm drawing you back to the fact that there has always been a great war. It happened then, it's happening now, and it will happen in the future. And we are a part of something today. So now let's go back to Revelation chapter 12 as we finish, and pick it up again from verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued a woman who had given birth to the male child. But the woman was given the 2 wings of great eagle. Now, let's see how good you know your scriptures. Okay? What was that a reference to? Where have you heard this before? Okay, I'll help you. I carried you out of Egypt on wings of eagles, so that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness, to the place where she is to be nourished for a time and times and half. How much does that make? 3.5. 3.5. 1, 2, and half. 3.5. The serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away from it with a flood. But the earth came to the help of the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth. Then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring. So this woman didn't just give birth to a male child, who we said was, who's this male child? Jesus, we all agree on that. She also gave birth to more offsprings, who would that be?
Church.
Us, the church. And it says, on those who kept the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. Alright, so you see that this is what John is keeping on doing over and over and over. He says to us, you are in a cosmic conflict between the powers that look like they are going to destroy you and kill you. But John again says, don't give up. And he's been saying it over and over and over. Because your obedient faithfulness to God is what is going to be used by God to destroy the work of the devil. Are you listening to this? Your obedient faithfulness is what God is going to be using to destroy the work of the devil. This is always what God has done. So remember Genesis 3, the story of Adam and Eve? Okay? Genesis chapter 3, about the serpent and the heel crushed by the head. I want to show you something that talks about the obedient faithfulness that destroyed the devil. Let's have a look at the story, and you know that story. We would have known it from Sunday school. David and Goliath as an example. And if you are confused by the reference to Adam and Eve, how does that tie in with David and Goliath? Goliath is how many cubits high? 6. Don't believe me? Read the story again. It says he was 6 cubits high. Some Bible version will explain it away. They will say 6.5, 7, 5.5. But the original Hebrew, and in most manuscripts, it will say 6. He has a spearhead that weighs how much? Can that give you a clue? 6 shekels. And we are told in another chapter in 2 Samuel 21:16 to 22 that he has a brother, or it might be himself. depending on how you interpret it, he has how many fingers? 6. Okay? Depending on how you interpret it, what do we get? 6. And on top of it, in 1 Samuel 17, he says that he has an armor like scales. So now, if you see someone who has 666 armor like scales, you think of who? The serpent. In Genesis chapter 3. What is scales? A snake. The serpent. What does David do? He takes a stone and what? He crushes his head. And everyone that reads that, especially the pre-Jesus, those who haven't believed in Jesus yet, is going to say David fulfilled the promise of Genesis chapter 3. Now, who comes from the line of David? Jesus. So it's also Jesus, isn't it? But it's deeper than that, because Paul is going to quote later on from Romans chapter 16, when he says, the God of peace will soon crush Satan underneath your feet. The God of peace will soon crush Satan underneath your feet. The biblical scholars have always thought that Genesis 3 is a fulfillment, and as you walk in obedient faithfulness, they kept on saying, as you are walking, and imagine you walking and there's a grass, and you're walking in obedient faithfulness, and there is snake that are slithering beneath you, but you don't realize, because you're walking in obedient faithfulness, what happens as you walk in obedient faithfulness? What happens to the snakes? Come on. When I was researching all of this, eventually I was also confused and going, where is this going? Because this was sending me this, and this was sending me that. And when I came to this and came to that conclusion, and we walk in obedient faithfulness, we don't have to worry about sin. Amen. Because we crush in Him. Amen. And we don't even know that we're doing it, because we are focusing on Jesus, setting our eyes on Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. So you need to walk in faithful obedience. And John says this is how you overcome Satan. John has been saying it every single chapter for the last 9 weeks that we've been looking at this. You've got to not give up. You have to persevere. You have to overcome, because at the end you will crush Satan. Hallelujah. At the end you will crush Satan in your circumstances. And eventually, if you are a historian, eventually you will know that the Roman Empire falls. This great, just like that sign. And you know why it fell? And these different ideas to why it fell. And a lot of people say it was because Nero put most of Rome down because he was so crazy and stuff. And they think, partly yes. But I believe that Rome fell because a group of believers refused to give up the faithful obedience and walk the way Jesus walked, year after year after year. That eventually cities like Ephesus, that was such a pagan city, 90% of the citizens of Ephesus became to know Jesus Christ. Eventually, the Emperor of Rome, Constantinople, and there's many stories that happened, but the general story is believed that through his wife, that his wife's sister was a Bible study leader in one of the homes, that she came to know Christ, and she was speaking to her husband who was Constantinople, and he became to know Jesus, and he decreed that every Roman citizen needs to bow their heads to Jesus. This great and mighty Rome eventually bowed down to Jesus. And part of the beauty of the faithful obedience is that we don't have to walk in it alone. We don't. Because Jesus, who died, he was buried. Remember, John calls us to the empty tomb because he rose, walks with us, and promises that he will never leave us nor forsake.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
And that is what I believe is important for us to take out of Revelation chapter 12. Walk in faithful obedience. And the gates of hell do not prevail. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for the pearls of wisdom and beauty and treasure that is found in this great book that you've ordained for your servant John to write. Thank you for the wisdom within the words that you have poured through and with your Holy Spirit into the hands of John as he wrote this book many years ago. And thank you, Lord, that as it has challenged those centuries before us, those who first came to know you as the Lord and Savior, thank you that not only does it speak to them, but it speaks to us today. That we are in this great race, and the world is watching us run in this race, but also how we finish this race. And as we run in this race of life, let us always point to you, to your glory, to your majesty, to your splendor. And we thank you, Lord Jesus, that because of our faithful obedience as we walk in this life, we have the power over Satan. And to you, Satan, in Jesus' name, today we stand as a church, as people here in the church, each one of us going through different circumstances. Watch out, because the victory belongs to our God. And the gates of hell will not prevail under any circumstances. Because we are not under any circumstances. We are overcomers, and we are above every circumstance. We serve a God who has one foot in the sea and the other on land. And we cast you, Satan, in Jesus' name, to the pit of hell. As we walk in obedience. We stand in obedience. We worship in obedience. And we are the children of a living God. Redeemed, washed, saved by His blood. And our general is the same, our Lord Jesus Christ. And everyone said, Amen. Amen. We're going to sing our last song, which is Bind Us Together.